Good evening, everyone. I hope everyone is able to hear me and everyone is able to see my screen. If possible, can someone please confirm if you're able to hear me clearly and able to see my screen?
Yes,
Yes.
sir.
Thank you. So, what we discussed in yesterday class is nothing but we were discussing about derived methods, the limitations of the derived method, out of which the first approach on the limitations of derived method is if we want to retrieve the data from multiple tables, by default, as part of the principles we may not achieve, but it all depends on the situation. Okay, it all depends on the situation. So whenever, if you want to retrieve the data from multiple tables, it is purely depends on a situation. If you define those tables in associations, if you define that associations in Java side, whatever the database side relationships are there, on the same on the Java side also, if you keep the same associations, by default, it is still we can use derived methods. So for that, we define many to many, and we didn't write any code. I mean, any code actually. By default, framework automatically it writes. Okay. By default, framework is automatically writes its query. So that's what we have seen. But we are going to see if at all, if you don't have association at all, if you don't have any association on the Java side, only on the database side only we have associations. If you don't have an association on the Java side, then we need to write a named query. A named query is another approach where developer need to write a query for that. Developer is going to write a query for that. So as part of the query, abstract method to be done by the developer as well as query to be written by the developer, and implementation. Query is nothing but it's an implementation only. Okay. So by default, so as part of named query, developer is going to write abstract method and framework is going to write implement. Sorry, framework is not going to write implementation. Developer need to write implementation. Abstract method is at interface layer and implementation is at a POJO class layer. That is a model class layer. So that is what I'm explained yesterday, and we are going to see hands-on for today. So before I proceed further, anyone has any questions as of now, so that I'll take it up. Otherwise, I'll proceed further on named query.
Quick question. So,
Please.
from what I understand, we can relate even. I think that's what we are doing also, if I understand correctly. We can even join 3 or 4 tables if we
Yes.
Have everything set up in Java.
Correct.
Is that
Yes.
correct?
Not only 3 tables. If you can relate to 10 tables also, you can. But the
Yes.
relationship should be there.
It should be there.
Correct.
A is related to B, B is related to C, like
Correct.
that.
Something like that. Yes.
Okay. And
Correct.
one more thing, not related to this one,
Mm-hmm.
but I am unable to download the files which you uploaded. It's. Shall
I
you want to take it
explained.
down? Yeah.
I explained 3 times minimum. Maybe you're not there part of the class actually. How to download? Yeah.
Maybe I missed it. Yeah.
Okay, I'll show you. Guys, whoever is missing the class of how to download, I am explaining now, guys. Please kindly make sure that you listen to that. Okay. If anyone is not able to, maybe Sridhar, what I'll do is still people are joining. At the end, I'll
Okay. Yeah.
explain.
That's why
So
I'm
that
asking. You want to take
at the
it now
end,
or later?
at the end, I'll take. No, I
Okay.
can take right now, but still people are joining, right? I told n number of times to join at the right time. No one will join at the right time. Okay. So I'll take at the end of the session so that everyone will be available. Okay. Right. Yes. Any other questions by anyone?
No. Thank you.
Any other questions by anyone, guys? Okay. Now I already wrote in the last class about a derived method. So I got an error, but when I closed my Eclipse, when I open my Eclipse, error is gone. Nothing I have done here. So here in I wrote person.java, but what I'll do is I'll go to DAO layer. First of all, in person DAO layer, I wrote a named query. the name of the named query is, did I not write here? Sorry, here. Okay, named query is right? Yes. Here I wrote in a person DAO, I wrote a named query. The named query is what? Public list of person, give data by name, anything you can write here, isn't it? You can write anything here, find by, class by, like that. We don't have any restrictions here. You can write your own method name. So that is why I wrote a give data by name. That's what I wrote. And I wrote here typically in a service layer, person.service, here give data by name. Whenever we wrote this particular method, okay, whenever we write this particular method, it is going to call this DAO. Whenever this DAO is called, it is going to go to declaration of person, where named queries, inside that named query, person dot give data by name. I'm writing a query and I'm assigning the name. That's the named query. I'm writing a query and I'm assigning that name to that query. That is called as named query. I'm writing a query and I'm assigning a name. That is typically called as a named query. Okay. So as part of named query, abstract method is at interface layer. Implementation is at abstract method is at interface layer. Implementation is at model class or a POJO class, right? So here I wrote person DAO.give data by name. Now I'm going to call. So let me name. Yes, I'll give that. Right now here, give data by name, first name, person dot give first name. First name is Kiran. Find by first name Ram. I think this is more sufficient. So which is equal to give data by name, give data by name. There's a named query, right? So here I am writing here give data by name, isn't it? Now let me run this code. Run as Spring Boot app. Now you saw here query came, select a star from person where first name is equal to Ram. You got the data, right? So this is a typically a named query. Typically execution of a named query. Okay, yesterday I don't know why we got a small compilation issue. I closed the Eclipse, I reopened the Eclipse, the compilation issue is gone. That's it. Okay. So any questions on the named query, guys, as of now? On the introduction part of named query.
We have one question regarding query. We have given a written query like from person P. P that is a alias name, right?
Correct. It's alias name. Yes, it's alias
name. So and then we are giving like select P from person P.
Select star. P means star.
So P means a star. Okay.
Yes. Okay.
Sir, actually, give data by name is the method which is there in person DAO, but here person dot
class name dot method name.
Okay. So class name dot method name means it's static, right?
Convention. Yes.
Yeah.
It's a convention.
Yep.
Okay,
Okay,
class
sir.
name dot
Okay.
method. Yes.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay, sir, if we have multiple methods like that, so how can we write in person class like with a comma separated query, right?
Multiple methods means, yeah, in, okay, you mean to say that here, right? Yeah, comma, one more query. So named query, named query, named query, like that, unit right. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
Any other? Now, in this context, what is my question here? If I want to retrieve the data from multiple tables, where I want to write a query. Okay. Here, assuming that book table, publisher table, as well as book underscore publisher table, it does not have any associations in the Java side. Only in the database side only we have data. I mean, the associations are only on the database side. It does not have anything on the Java. I mean, in the Java side, we don't have any associations. Purely we have associations on the database side only. Now we need to write a query, right? Ultimately, we are going to write a query here. We are going to write a query in that. So here I'm going to explain you in book DAO. Okay. Now I'm going to write a here. Instead of find by name, get book details by name. Something like that. Just the same functionality. Okay, it is get means it is taking get instead of that. Retrieve books by name. Okay, something like that. Retrieve books by name. So this is called as derived query. This is called as what? Named query. Right. Now here I'm going to write in a service class. With service class, I'm writing in a person service. Return book DAO dot book name. So here I'm going to write inside model class book dot Java. Here we are going to write person dot Java. Same here. So which is equal to yes, we have named query book dot retrieve books by name. Okay. Now select B from book B, join B dot publishers. We have a property, right? B dot publishers. Okay. Where B dot book name. That's it. You no need to write inner join, outer join, left outer join. All those things I don't want to write. Select B from book B, join B dot publishers. I wrote the entire relationship is there in this property, right? The entire relationship is there on this property. Am I right? You see here, select B from book B, join B dot publishers, which is, I can say that it's a P, where B dot book name is equal to question mark 1. That's it. Now, if I go to my give data by name, find by book name. Here I need to write retrieve books by name. Here I'm going to write retrieve books by name. Same code, right? Here I wrote my query. Is this query, but you should have a knowledge on query. You should have a knowledge on database system. Understand, right? You should have a data. I mean, you should have a knowledge on your database system. In case of derived query, you don't need to have, but in case of this, you need to have completely knowledge on your queries, database system, inner join, outer join, left outer join, right outer join, full outer join, like some kind of knowledge you need to have. Okay. Yes. Now we are going to run our query. Run as SpringBoot app. You saw that query came, right? It executed the query. Okay, we got two records, right? Because we need to keep distinct. Select distinct because it's a by default the query will be executed two times. That's a we have a n+1 diamond problem in Hibernate framework. I don't want to go there. So select a distinct. You should give a distinct keyword so that it will give the data only once. Now you saw here book 2, author 3, author 2. So this is called. So if you write a query like this, or else you can write a query, select B from book B, inner join tbl underscore book, book publisher, book underscore publisher, all those things I can write. But this is a typical example of a named query where you can retrieve the data from multiple tables. Is that clear? Anyone has any questions, guys, so far?
Sir, here we can declare. Hello.
Sorry. Yeah.
So here we can declare multiple tables, right? You mean to say?
Correct. Yes, we can declare n number of tables.
But how it's mapping with the table and the object, the column and the object?
Output should be, your output should be matched with this. Tables, you can n number of things you can relate. Your whatever the data you are returning, that it should match with this. I'm returning what? Book data only, right? This is the data I'm returning, right? It is matching, right? Exactly. Sir, how many tables you read? I'm getting my voice again. Whenever anyone asking question, don't listen to my class on speakerphone. I'm only getting my voice back again. Okay. So the question is, inside this here, you can write anything. N number of tables you can write, but output should be matching with your model class. But I'll explain you. If it does not match, what I need to, I'll explain that. If in some cases it does not match, I'm going to explain how to do that. But as of now, I didn't explain that. Okay. Everyone is clear? Anyone? Any questions, guys?
We have one question. Need to select only specific columns. Then
I'm going to explain that. That is what I'm there, right? I only explain the first point. That's what I do. If we want to fetch few columns, that is, I didn't explain that, right? I only explained as of now only 2 points. Yes. Any other questions? I'm going to explain that. Okay. Now, before I goes there, I want to take Can we take this one only, guys? Or can we take aggregating functions? If we want to fetch few columns, not all the columns, can we write this first actually? Right. So what I'm going to do is, let me go to person table. Okay. What I want is, I'll go to person data. I will write a one more named query. Okay. Person dot give few columns. Select p dot first name. I only need first name, comma, last name, comma, p dot last name, p dot first name, p dot last name from person p, where first name is equal to. I am writing only two columns. Can I write like this?
Yes, sir. For specific columns we want.
Correct. Now that is the question just now asked, right? I am taking the topic is, if we want to fetch few columns, not all columns, derived query we cannot write. Now named query, I am writing a query. In the query output, I am only mentioning what columns I need. Now I'm going to write person DAO inside person DAO. Okay. So here I'm writing here, give few columns. Save. And let me go to person service. Return person DAO dot give few columns first name. Isn't it? Now let me go to my output. So my output is give few columns. By default, I'm going to give few columns. Okay. I'm give few columns. Here, I'm going to write like this. Everyone is clear? Will it work, guys? Is it going to work? Yes or no?
I think yes, sir.
No.
I'm telling that it will not work. Why? Why it will not work? Can someone tell me?
Actually, I was doing that. I'm getting the error type mismatch. Cannot convert the type into string like that.
So someone already tried.
Yes, I already tried.
That's why you are able to give the answer, right?
Yes.
So give me 1 second, guys. 1 second. 1 second, please don't mind. Meanwhile, can someone tell me why we can get error? 1 second, I'll be back. By anyone, any luck? I mean, can we assume why error will get? Maybe the person who tried, please keep quiet. I want to listen from others. My intention is I want to get few columns. I wrote a query, right? I wrote a query and I want only few columns. What is the problem in giving that?
Filtering is not possible.
I'm not filtering, right? I'm only asking columns, right? Now we'll try that, guys. I'm going to show you the example, error and all those things. Okay. So you saw that query came. Select first name, last name from person where query came. There is no problem with the query. Am I right? There is no problem with the query. But while converting the data, failed to convert java.long.object to person. By default, as part of ORM framework, the output of query should exactly match with model class. Output of query should exactly match with model class. Here, first name, last name only I'm giving. What about age? What about created date? What about email? Whatever person ID? I'm not giving all the columns, right? By default, ORM framework will not work if your output of data or output of query does not exactly match with model class, because the ORM framework is written in such a way that whenever you write any custom things, by default your output should exactly match with the model class. Otherwise it will not work. That is the default key principles of ORM framework. Okay guys, don't mind guys, I'm sincerely apologize. Give me only 1 minute guys, only 1 minute, I'll be back. Yeah, I'm sorry guys, I'm back. Okay, by default what is the explanation I'm giving, right? So even though you write a custom query, we are not writing the end-to-end query, right? Just we are writing the query, output of the result set. By default, result set will be converted into model class done by the JPA framework only. JPA framework only will take care of converting the model, the result set into typically a model class. It is going to take care of converting the result set into model class, and they completely wrote in such a way that the output should exactly match with your model class. In that case, only the framework will work. If at all, in some cases, not in all cases, but in some cases, your output will not match sometimes. Is there any alternative provided by the JPA framework at all? What is that actually we need? Is there any alternative provided by the JPA framework to make sure that if at all, if the output of my result set is not matching exactly with model class, how to achieve that? I am going to focus. Is that clear, everyone? As of now, any questions, guys? Anyone as of now? Okay. What we need to do is, by default, we cannot do that. What is the alternative is, I need to create one normal Java class, not entity class. One Java class I need to write. Something like custom type I need to create. I need to create a Java class. In the Java class, what I need to write is, I am writing whatever the column names I want. It's a normal Java class. I need only first name as well as I need only last name. That's it. Now I need to write source, generate constructor. Next, getters and setters. Source, generate getters and setters. First name as well as last name and constructor, and default constructor. And toString method. Source, generate toString method. So this is what I created a custom type. And what I need to write in the query is select new com dot model dot custom type. Please convert this output. So what I'm going to write here is select after getting the output, please convert into custom type of first name comma last name. I'm asking to convert into custom type, and my output is, instead of person, custom type, not person class. My output is what? Custom type. Right? And here my output is custom type, which is equal to custom type. Okay. Now I will show you the execution part. Now you got output, right? Is this clear? Select first name, last name from person, where first name, I got output, and it was able to convert first name is equal to Ram, last name is equal to Kumar. So whenever you want to retrieve the data only few columns, you need to do a custom Pojo class. What columns you want to write, those columns you need to create that custom type. It is not a model class. It's a normal Pojo class. In your query, you need to write select, sir, by default, whatever the output it is coming, p dot first name comma p dot last name, that output will be converted into this model class, and that model class will be written. This is where if you want to retrieve the data from a table with few columns, not all the columns. If I want to retrieve the data for few columns, by default, we can do like this. Any questions, guys, here? Anyone?
Yes, sir. Suppose sometime we need 2 columns, sometime we need 3 columns, sometime 4 columns. Okay. So it may
Yeah, you
it
can
may
write.
vary.
Yes, yes. You can write one more property. You can write your constructors.
Okay.
For example, I have. Okay.
Okay. So for the same suppose we write 6 to 7 column name in
Correct.
custom type. So can we
Yes.
use this 6 to this custom type?
Yeah,
If
same. You
if
can
it
use.
needs
You
2
can use the
column
same. Yeah, yeah. You can write 7 columns. Okay. You can write those many constructors. Now you
name.
need to use that constructor only here.
Okay, you mean what we need? We need to write a constructor of that much parameter only.
Correct.
Okay.
I can write a number of constructor, right?
Yeah, we can write.
In one class, I can write a number of constructors. So what I'll do here, I'm going to write, for example, 7 properties. In one query, I got 2 columns. In another query, I got 4 columns. Now I'll write 2 constructor. One constructor with 2 columns, another constructor with 4 columns. And I'll choose 2 constructor for 2 columns, 4 constructor for 4 columns. Same class I can use.
Okay, sir. Got it.
Yeah, any other questions, guys?
Sir, can you explain how internally it is working if we are getting Pojo class and all?
By default, internal means here the query will be executed and the output of the query, it is going to call the constructor and it is going to set first name is equal to first name, last name is equal to last name, and this custom type is set and that custom type is written. Understand? By default, whatever the output is coming, it is setting to this constructor, and through constructor, custom type is written and the custom type is came. By default, framework have all the columns. By default, we have a person class, right? How this is working? Same, but framework is written like that. But all the columns will be there. But in my case, I have only 2 columns. That's why I am writing a custom type.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Sir, one real quick question. So
Please.
this constructor, the custom type can be like we can write multiple constructors in the same Java class file.
Correct.
But the constructor name should be unique for every time. Like for example, in this case, we only took first name and last name. If you added another column, then it would be like custom type 1 is the constructor.
No, we can write we can write one more constructor, right?
Or
For
one more
example,
constructor.
private integer age. This is the third column, right? Okay. I can write same constructor, but with override, we can write overloading, right?
Okay. So just the arguments you can pass. So like
Correct.
that, like that, we can just write as
many constructor I can.
as many constructors as possible. Okay.
Yes. Clear?
One question, sir, on the follow-up question. So every time the query changes as a developer writes the query, right?
Definitely. Query
So
write.
he has to come and change this
Correct.
change this Java
Definitely.
file.
Correct. Definitely. Now, on the same follow-up question, first of all, we'll think of probability. In real time, which is best for me? Can I use CRUD repository? Can I use derived query? Can I use named query? Which is best for me? Of a given choice for you, it's an interview question, guys. It's a typically interview question. For a given choice, which one you will choose? You'll choose CRUD repository, or you are going to choose derived query, or you're going to choose named query? Which one you will choose?
So it will based we will choose based on the requirements.
Okay. For example, I want to insert the data.
So we will use the derived method.
If you want to insert data, you're going to derived method.
Yes.
Using CRUD.
CRUD repository. So
Sorry,
derived
yeah,
method is only
sorry.
derived method is yeah. Derived method is only for retrieving the data, guys. Please don't. Okay. Derived query is only for retrieving data. Named query is also retrieving the data. Okay. Yes. The answer is depends on the situation. For example, I want to retrieve the data. Can I use derived query or named query?
Anything.
Anything I can use. But which one is the best? Which is suggestible as part of framework is concerned? If I want to retrieve the data, for example, I want to retrieve all the columns. No specific situation. I want to retrieve all the columns.
Derived.
Why? Why can't I write a named query? Why can't I write a code?
Here we will not have to write the query in the derived method.
I mean,
Framework
every
is
time.
providing a direct facility, right?
Yes. And also that every time we add a new column, so someone has to come here and change that.
For example, I will not add any column at all. My columns are fixed. And I have a lot of patience to write a code. Yes, I agree to your point. If at all in future, if you want to add a column, I agree to your point. My point here is I will never add any column. My columns are fixed. My data is fixed. Everything is fixed. Is there any other important
one other
point?
thing. Yes, sir. One other thing is that if you use derived query, if the table have a 20 columns, it will get all 20 columns data and store it in memory in object. Its complete object will be stored rather than in here. There it just gets only those 2 columns.
Okay. Now the answer is I'm not asking explanation. For a given situation, you want to retrieve the data. Okay. Maybe my scenario is I want to retrieve person's data. For a given first name, I want to retrieve the person's data, or else forget about it. On an e-commerce framework, for a given product name, I want to get the product's data. For a given product name, I want to get the product's data. So which one I can choose? Can I go with a derived query or can I go with
derived query?
What if I write if named query?
So
It
we
will
will
work.
have to write the query, developer have to write the query in case of named query. But
Yeah,
in case of
developer will write. Developer will write because
but
I'll give one answer. I'll give one answer. If I write a derived query, framework has to write a query, right? Now, if I give a derived query, framework has to write a query for me, right? Some energy will be there. Framework should do that, right?
Yes.
Now, if I'm writing a query, the energy is not required. Framework will be free, right? Is it not true?
Yes.
Let me tell you once again. Sir, for example, find by created date between. Okay. So what I'm mentioning is it is going to retrieve the data between 2 dates. It is going to retrieve the data between 2 dates. If I use derived query, framework has to write a query for that. Now, if I use a named query, I am only writing.
Burden on the framework will be decreased.
Sorry, query?
Burden on the framework will be decreased.
Correct. Burden on the framework will be decreased, right? Is it not, or is it not right?
Queries are tightly coupled with the database. If you want to change it later, then it is better to go with that.
For example, I will never change database. I will never change database. in future also.
Okay.
The reason is interviewer is going to confuse like this. There is a one point here which we need to think of. Okay. Right. By default, whatever the answer is told is absolutely wrong. Always you need to use derived query only. You should never go with named query unless it is required. Always derived query is only best one rather than named query. Why? Sir, you only told, right, sir? Derived query means framework has to write a query. Framework has a burden. Just now you told, right? Something you may ask. To confuse you people, I told the way. In the similar way, interviewer is also going to tell you that to confuse you, he will tell that. Okay? Yes. So by default, what I'm trying to is there are three things are there whenever a query is there. Syntactical check, semantical check, query execution plan. Whenever you send a query, whether you write a query or framework writes a query, it doesn't matter. The query should be submitted to the database and database will give the data, right? Between Java to database, when any query is submitted to Java side, there will be completely three steps: syntactical check, semantical check, as well as query execution plan. What is syntactical check is, for example, I got this query. Okay. This is a query. It is triggered. It is going to check. Is this query syntax is correct or wrong? It will verify. Which one will database system will verify? Is that syntax is correct or wrong? Like if I write from somewhere else here, it's a wrong query, right? So it is going to check is the query is written as part of the database syntaxes or not. That is a syntactical check. Semantical check means all the column names, all the table names, all the semantics which are used here. Do you have first name? Do you have last name? Do you have per table? Do you have first name? Whatever the data, whatever the columns are used, does those columns exist in the table or not? I wrote a query syntax wise correct, but I am telling that I wrote first name. Instead of first underscore name, I wrote first name. Then query will give error, right? That is called a semantical check. Then query execution plan. What is the meaning of query execution plan means? Okay. Whenever query is executed, it will prepare a plan. How much RAM is required? How much memory is required? Do we have indexes, clustered indexes, non-clustered indexes? Something like it will database system will prepare a plan to get the data from database file system and keeps the data in the memory. So whenever you perform a derived query, the query will never change. Am I right? All these three steps will be performed only once. Whenever you write a derived query, these three steps will be performed only once, because query is always constant or it's the same. But whereas named query, every time these three will be executed: syntactical check, semantical check, query execution plan. 10 to 20% of improvement will be there with derived method compared to named query. In case of derived method, syntactical check as well as semantical check as well as query execution plan, by default it will be retrieved only once, or it will be called only once. Rest of the times it will not call. But whereas named query, these three steps, syntactical check, semantical check as well as execution plan, all these three will be done every time. That is what the typical explanation of a derived query versus named query. Always suggestible to use derived query only. But unless it is required, a table is having 100 columns. I want only 2 columns. Then I can go with named query only. Okay. Or if I want to write aggregating functions, sum of, count star, group by, all these things, I can go with named query only. If you want to retrieve the data from multiple tables where associations are not at all there, I'll go with named query. But unless it is really required, I'll go with named query. But if I can achieve with derived query, I can go with derived query only. This is the typical explanation of a derived query as well as named query. Everyone is clear? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Now I'm going to share the code, guys. At the same time, someone asked me to how to download the code from Google Classroom. Okay, I'm going to explain. Someone asked me how to download the code from Google Classroom. I'm going to explain that. So, topic, named query. So I'm posting the data. For example, sir, someone asked me, is that participant is there, right?
Yes, this is Sridhar who asked that question.
Yeah, sir. Is there, right? Yeah, just like, okay. Now you need to click this. Okay. On the right side, more actions. Open in new window. You'll see a download button. Okay. If you click download, you got named query.zip, right?
Yes,
It is
got
downloaded. Okay. Clear?
Yeah, got it.
Thank you. So any other questions, anyone so far?
Sir, one other question now. So
Mhm.
in the named query, if you want to be extract the data from multiple tables, that's all.
Yeah,
So what?
we did, right? Already. We already just did, right? Named query. In the book.java,
Yeah.
multiple tables on, right? I wrote a query, right? Join.
Yes, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Okay. Right. Okay. Okay, guys. I'll stop for today.